All right, my friends, welcome back to another episode of the Reisinger Build. That's right, we've been building this house for you guys, start to finish. We have just completed the drywall phase, and if you can guess what is in this 3,000-pound pallet, this is gonna tell you what's next. We are coming into the tile phase. You know, when we come out of the drywall phase, there's really two main things we wanna do. We wanna get our floors in, our tile floors, of course, our showers. We also want to get our hardwood floors in, or whatever is going to be our main floor covering, because when the trim guys come, we want to be able to set that trim and those doors right onto the finished floor. So now that my tile is here, this is Clay Imports tile, made in Mexico and shipped right to my job site. So what's behind that makes all the difference for me as a builder to make sure that we've got a really solid tile install that we're not going to have any problems with. And this big pile of orange boxes is a fabulous system that I've made a bunch of videos on. This is all made by a company called Schluter. And what I like about these guys is they have a full system, not just a product or one type of whatever, but a full system to install your tile and make sure that that system is going to be waterproof for the life of the house and we're not going to have problems. So I've got my ace installer, Barrett Flooring, here today. These guys do a fabulous job. We're going to walk you through the system, the components that it's going to take before we start installing that beautiful Clay Imports tile. We're going to show you a couple tips and tricks, and I'm going to show you a couple different methods as well to use this in terms of what's on the wall before. So with that being said, today's episode all about the tile phase, sponsored by our friends at Schluter and USG. We're at the Reisinger Build in partnership with Builders FirstSource. Let's get going.
A Build original series in partnership with Builders FirstSource. The Reisinger Build.
All right, guys, before we go see Dan upstairs and talk about a specific tile install, two things I want to review with you real quick. Number one, the scope of the problem and why tile is so important to me as a builder. And then I'm going to review a little bit of the Schluter system. So first off, the scope of the problem. You know, you've seen me over the years. I spend a lot of time on waterproofing on the outside of the house because water is the enemy of our houses. But guess what? There's a source of water that's way more prevalent than the water outside, and that's your water inside in your shower areas, in your bath areas. If we think about this in relation to the outside, let's think about how much annual rainfall we get in a lot of cities. For instance, Austin, Texas, we get on average about 35 inches of rain here. It's actually pretty high. Seattle, Washington, we think of that a rainy climate. They only get 38 annual inches of rainfall a year. Let's look at a couple other cities. Mobile, Alabama, 67 inches a year in Mobile. That's a lot of inches. That's almost double where I am. And the city in the US that gets the most annual rainfall is Hawaii, 127 annual inches of rain. That is a lot of water falling from the sky. Think about the Amazon forest. I looked that up. I think of that as the tropical rainforest. There's some parts of the Amazon that get up to 200 inches of water. Now let's relate that to our shower. For instance, my hall bath or my master shower. I've got one shower head in there, and let's say just one person lives here. If they were to shower for 8 minutes every single day, and the shower head was putting out 2.1 gallons per minute, that's going to be just a little over 16 gallons every time they shower, 16.8 gallons. Now let's say they take a shower every single day. Over the course of the year, that's going to be 6,132 gallons. And let's say that the shower is a 3-foot by 3-foot shower. If we can equate that to annual rainfall inches per year, that's over 1,000 inches of rain per year. And that's just one person showering. Think about a 2 people shower in that master. That's 2,000 inches. That makes the Amazon look like nothing. That's 10 times the amount of rainfall in the Amazon. And that's why tile and waterproofing in your tile is so vitally important. We don't want to rely on caulking in the corners. We don't want to rely on anything. We need to make sure that everything that's behind the tile is 100% waterproof, and it's a system that we can trust. And that's a perfect transition to Schluter. Now, when I first heard of Schluter, it was a little over a decade ago, and it was this product right here that made me go, oh my gosh, I need to check these guys out. More than a decade ago, I had an interior designer, it's probably more like 15 years ago now, say, hey, I want to do this linear drain in a master shower. And it blew all of our minds as contractors. Like, linear drain? How the heck am I going to waterproof this linear trough? And this, if you look at the backside, is the trough. You can see that this is going to take a linear grate, and this is the pipe that's going to take the water away. But here's the deal. This right here is what Schluter did that totally blew my mind and said, these guys have something going. I need to investigate the system. See this fabric that's bonded to this? This is their Kerdi membrane. It feels almost like a jeans material. It's real thick and fleecy on both sides. And see how it's absolutely bonded permanently to that drain? When I saw this, I said, now this looks like something I could get behind. This to me looks like something that would really waterproof a linear drain. And once I found this, I was like, I got to learn more about this Schluter system. And I have been a huge fan ever since. I use this entire system at my house, and this is what we're using at the Reisinger build as well. Now let me back up a step. When you get to the bathroom, we just finished the drywall stage. We've got the drywall hung. There's really 3 substrates for walls that we can use Schluter products on to waterproof. The first is sheetrock. In one of my bathrooms upstairs, we just used a mold-resistant sheetrock from USG. It's a green-faced board, and we can absolutely use this product right on top of it. It's that same fleecy material. They call it Kerdi. It's a membrane. It comes in a roll. It kind of applies like wallpaper, and we're about to see Dan in this bathroom and his guys upstairs use this. But we can also use it on different substrates. For instance, USG brand Durock. This is an old and trusted product that's been around in the market for a long time. Contractors like me have used it and liked it for a long time because it is a cement-based product. It's water durable and mold resistant. It has a 10-year warranty for both interior and exterior applications, and it has exceptional tile bond. This is a really solid feeling material. I really like it. And so we can also use that same Kerdi membrane on that, and we're going to get into that in a second. There's a third choice, though, that we're not going to spend a lot of time on this video on, but that you've seen if you've seen my house and a lot of my jobs, and that's Kerdi board. We're using that on the 2 downstairs showers. The hall or guest shower is going to get the Kerdi board, and the primary or master shower is also going to get the Kerdi board. It's that right there in the corner. It's sold in 4x8 sheets. It's a 1/2 inch thick. It's a foam board that has that Kerdi membrane bonded to it. And when you install that, there's a bunch of benefits to that Kerdi board. One of the big benefits is it's going to replace other solid backing materials. In other words, we don't need to put gypsum up, or we don't need to use a cement-based backer board. Very lightweight, very easy to carry. It's already got that Kerdi membrane on it, so now we don't have to wallpaper the walls. We just need to deal with the penetrations, the places where we've screwed it in. It's very even, it's impact resistant, and it's rigid. And it's fully waterproof once it's finished. It gives a little bit of thermal insulation value, and it's dimensionally stable. It's also really easy to work with. So if we want to build a curb, a shower bench, a countertop, there's a bunch of different things that we could build out of that board material. And they give you some options in thickness depending on what you're doing. So there's a lot of really cool things. I did my full master shower out of that, and I've had 0 problems. No cracked tile, no cracked grout, nothing. Okay, so that's walls and the 3 options that we're going to be doing for walls here, where we're doing it over sheetrock, we're doing it over Durock, and we're going to be using the Kerdi board. Let's talk floors next. Everywhere I've got tile going on a floor, we're going to be using this product. It's called Schluter Ditra. This is a crack isolation membrane. It's pretty thin, super lightweight. I mean, you can see this roll only weighs, I don't know, what, 30 pounds maybe, something like that. Kind of a fleece on one side, and a kind of a smashed egg crate on the other. I've made a lot of videos on this. I did a bunch of videos at my house, so go check those out. But this membrane is fantastic. And this is going to isolate a crack from coming up through. Especially think about concrete. It doesn't take long for us to find a crack in the concrete. You know, the contractor's old funny adages. There's 2 types of concrete. There's concrete that's cracked, and there's concrete that's going to crack. If I were to adhere tile to this, like happens all over the South where we've got slab on grade foundations, that crack right there would translate right up through the tile. So if I tiled over this, you would see that crack translate through as that concrete continued to slightly separate, slightly move. So what we'd want to do is use a crack isolation membrane. Now we also want to use this over subfloor as well. So I've got some great 3/4 and 1/8" Advantech on this house in various parts. But on top of that Advantech, I'm going to be using this. Now they make two varieties of this. They make a peel and stick version. And I won't get onto the details on that. I've talked about that before in a previous video. But this one requires thin set to put down. That's what we're going to be using on this job. And now this is going to separate my subfloor, my concrete, from my tile, which is on top. This is also a waterproofing membrane. So if I use some Kerdi band where this hits my walls, I can also waterproof that floor for emergency purposes. And you're going to notice in a couple of these bathrooms, I have some floor drains for emergency purposes so that if I ever had an overflow in that bathroom, it would go down a floor drain and it wouldn't get into the, the bottom subfloor area or drain below in the house. It's going to add a lot of durability to this house. Now, a couple things I want to mention about these products. First off, you want to use all of their system together, right? They've got their own thin sets. They've got a couple different varieties. I'm not going to get into all the technical details in that, but you definitely want to use that. They also have a ton of accessories available. When it comes to waterproofing, they've got collars for where you've got pipes that are coming through. These are things that you want to spend a little time ahead of time and really verify that you understand how to use the system. And lastly, another product that we're not going to spend a lot of time on, but we used on this job is the shower tray from Kerdi as well. These are pre-sloped showers that you can get of a bunch of sizes and a bunch of varieties that include an EPS foam base that's really rigid but also provides some insulation value, and they're pre-sloped, and that Kerdi membrane is on them already, so that basically all we got to do is waterproof that drain going in, and they have all the drain bodies for that, and tile right onto them. Now let's go back to that example we used before of how much rainfall we get in, let's say, the Amazon forest of 200 inches a year, and a typical shower with just one person taking an 8-minute shower a day, getting 1,000 inches of rain. One of the things I really like about this system is there's no mortar beds. Traditional tile setting where you've got a mortar bed, that mortar bed gets wet and never dries. I'm talking about a mortar bed where I've got a sloped pan that mortar is used to slope to the pan. That mortar never dries, it always stays wet, and that's a big source for surface mold growth on showers in America. So by these products, using these products, I don't have any mortar bed, and I can tell you one of the biggest benefits of living with a Schluter system now at my personal house for a couple of years has been my shower dries like that. I bet if I shower at 7 o'clock, before lunchtime, my shower is totally 100% dry. So if you shower once a day, that means that shower is only staying wet for a few hours. The whole rest of the day is totally dry. I get no mold growth on my grout. I've had zero issues with anything nasty looking growing in the corners because my shower dries incredibly fast. This is one of the big reasons why I recommend the Schluter system. Two other things I want to mention before we jump on here. We're going to be installing 2 of these lighted niches in our system here. We've got one in one of the bathrooms and one upstairs. We're going to be showing that in a few minutes. But basically, this is a preformed niche. Everything just slides right in. It's real easy to use. But they now have some lighted versions. These are low voltage lighting, so we're not worried about somebody getting electrocuted. And if you check out the sample, you can play with the lights. It's really neat to see this thing all lit up. I think that's going to be a big selling feature on this house, and they're really not that expensive. We're going to sink a transformer into the attic someplace that we can access it later if it ever goes out. We're going to use a low voltage to high volt conversion, and then all we're going to do is be able to flip that light on in the shower, and I think that's going to be a really neat accent for both the upstairs bath and the guest bathroom. Guys, with that being said, there's so much more to talk about. But in general, let me close with saying, if you've got the rainforest in your house, which we do times 10, and you do as well, it's worth spending the time and effort to use a really good system, and Schluter is it. Let's go check out with Dan and see how this tile is going to go in. All right, y'all, come join me. We are just finishing up the drywall phase here, and we're actually cleaning up the floors and making it look pretty. But I've got my friends at Barrett upstairs. I think I've got both Dan and our ace installer Javier over here. We're getting this place cleaned up because you know the drywall phase certainly does make a mess. Check this out. I got some fresh ram board down right here. That looks good. And here they are right here. Yes, Dan, good to see you again, brother.
How's it going?
Another big project together. Always
I'm
fun,
excited,
my friend.
yeah.
So let's talk about where we are here. We've got our Kohler tub in, obviously from the rough-in phase. And the sheetrock guys put in the USG Durock for us ahead of time. You know, we're kind of doing a couple of different options for tile install. In some parts of the house, we're using the Schluter board. But in the two upstairs bathrooms, we're going to be showing how to do the Schluter system on top of some other substrates, right?
Correct. Yeah, this is a great substrate, cementitious, really flexible in terms of uses, and has both sides. It has this rough side for receiving mortar really well. So we really like working with that.
I like it. I also like that this got put up so that, for instance, we get our corner bead on, they can put a float on that. And then in this part of the house where we've got Durock coming up with this moisture resistant sheetrock, we're able to flush that all up. So that's working out really well. What's the process today to get prepped and to actually put the Schluter Kerdi band, not Kerdi band, the Kerdi.
It's a fleece. It's
Kerdi
just, we
fleece.
call it Kerdi or Kerdi fleece, and it's super simple. It's like wallpapering your bath walls. It's like
Okay, so pretty straightforward.
very straightforward. It travels on. The real key is this Kerdi band, which acts like a seam tape, and you just got to make sure that you have 2 inches per side to call it waterproof. But it's really elegant, really simple.
Also interesting to see that you've already done this niche in here already, right?
Yeah.
So that's got a Durock coming up to it. You've got the Kerdi board in there, and that I believe is a pre-made niche that you just had to integrate basically to the Durock, right?
Again, word of the day is elegant. It is pre-fabricated by Schluter and goes in. It's already waterproof, so we just have to literally thin set it to the wall and we're good to go.
I love it.
Love it. Super simple.
Talk to me about layout. What are we using for tile in here?
This is cool. We got our shop drawings here. They've been a little manhandled, but it's they're still doing good. So we have this rucksack green, which is a funny color, but it's gonna match that tub really well.
Clay Imports rucksack green. I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like.
Representing Austin, by the way. Shout out to Clay Imports.
Yeah.
We've been working with them for years and years and years,
Great
and
people.
they're just awesome. So
And
yeah,
they,
2
and
by
they own
8.
their own plant down in Mexico, by the way, which is cool.
Oh, I didn't realize.
Yeah.
That. Yeah. So, but again, those guys have been like OGs in the tile game in Austin, and we love those guys.
Good stuff. Now, talk to me about what we're going to do with this window. That's always a bit of a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's always a bit of a. Now, Dan, talk to me about what we're going to do with that window in terms of tile and waterproofing. That can be a little pucker factor going on there when you got a window in a shower area.
So yeah, we're gonna bring in this fleece as far as it can go, and then right at the edge, we're gonna get these edges with Kerdi Fix, which is just an incredible little pookie that makes that water go away.
And by the way, that is a Pella Impervia window. So this is not a wood window. We wouldn't want to use wood in a space like this. So it looks like wood. In fact, this is fiberglass. So Dan, when we use that Kerdi band on there, and then we do that final joining between, let's say, that Impervia window and the Kerdi band, we're going to use the Schluter Kerdi Fix.
And we're just going to hit that corner with it, and it's that last little bit of defense, and it works beautifully.
Yeah.
And then we're going to miter these tiles into this jam, so it's going to look really clean.
That's going to look really nice. I do want to point out as a side note on design, this window is pretty high. I'm 6'2". I'm standing in the tub, and you can see that the window's at my shoulder. So we could, if we wanted to, frost this window, of course, for privacy reasons, but you're not going to see anything, right? The worst, you're going to see someone's head in the shower potentially, and that's
Wave to your dog, wave to your neighbor walking their dog or something, but that's...
I have the same window in the shower at my house, and my 17-year-old boy, when I pulled in the other day, was waving at me from the shower, which I thought was hilarious. Anyways, let's get Javier in here. We've got a time-lapse camera going. We've got a lot of work to do. Let's let him get going. All right, Javier is making some good progress. Check it out. You got this entire wall done, my friend. That looks awesome. I like it. So Javier, how do you transition then from the Kerdi material to this porcelain tub? What's that look like?
Okay, so as you can see here, I already knifed this a little bit.
Yep.
So what we do use here is to fully seal this up, waterproof, and we use the Kerdi fix. So we'll add a fat bead back here.
Ah, gotcha.
So as you can see, we left this, and we then go all the way down with our mortar.
Gotcha.
So the fleece is applied with the mortar, right? The Kerdi with the tub. That's where we use this Kerdi fix.
So really,
Seal
pretty much the same transition as the pellet and pervia window,
Yep,
where that
exactly right.
dissimilar material hits. He's going to use that Kerdi fix right there. That's awesome. All right, brother, we'll let you keep going. I know you got 2 more walls to go. It's looking great. Actually, one thing I forgot to mention, Javier, reshow me that overlap real quick. I forgot. Javier actually brought this board around by like 6 inches. So now we've got the proper overlap on there. It's not like the 2 pieces are stopping the corner. I misspoke. That looks great. Nice job, brother. Excellent work. Looking really good here. Dan, I got to tell you, man, Javier is amazing.
He's a star. We're super stoked to have him.
Looks amazing. Just in case you didn't catch this, Javier marked this black line on here because he's going to flap this in. So now he's got a continuous band here. He doesn't have to come back later.
It's measured out exactly how far back he has to go. It's super easy, yeah.
Now he will have to, when he gets this point though, put a corner protector in, right?
Yeah, you have to.
Because this corner's got a slice there.
Absolutely.
But I love how he is overlapping here on this wall so that when this one goes on now, we've got that several inch overlap. Do you happen to know the spec from Schluter? How
Minimum
much overlap
of
do
2.
we need?
It's got to be at least 2 inch overlap.
Okay, so we've got more
Plenty.
than 2, no problem at all. So that's going to go over there, and once he finishes this, we're pretty much ready for tile, right?
We talked about it before. The only thing he's also going to do is hit Kerdi fix.
That's right.
On those kind of joints where we hit your sill.
And lastly, I do want to mention, we've got a couple specialty items from Schluter. We can't say the word system enough. It's why Dan and I like Schluter. They've got the system components to make this connection, everything nice and watertight. So they have specific accessories that fit this 1/2 inch nipple, these valves that are sticking through the wall. They've got really the system dialed.
It's interesting. The pipe seals and the valve seals, even when occasionally we get asked to not use, certain people use some other systems occasionally, we still use Schluter pipe seals and valve seals. I just think it's too valuable. It's just such clear protection, and I don't like to do an install without them.
Makes total sense. Now I want to put you on the spot because you may not know the answer to this, but where our tile comes out from Clay Imports, did you know ahead of time how thick that was so that we could figure out what we needed for a termination from Schluter? Because they make all these really cool metal terminations where you've got tile that comes proud of the sheetrock.
Okay, you mean like their edge finishes?
Right.
Yeah, so we have the thickness. It should be...
It's on your shop drawing even?
We only have the dimensions, but that is that's in our internal spec sheet, and all of our Schluter profiles are ordered ahead of time, so it would be
So
in our kind of internal...
those profiles are here when we get going on
Yes,
tile.
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Believe
Gotcha.
so. Unless they're going to miter the edges or do some sort of trim piece. I don't know the actual edge finish of this.
Gotcha. So when we get to that, we will get there. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the Clay Imports tile is here, and we've got Barrett on site. So we've got a couple of days worth of work between walls and floor. Why don't we pick up the video next, Dan, when we get to the floor section?
Sounds great.
All right, guys, we'll see you in a bit. Let's let Javier get back to work. Okay, y'all, we're back. Tile is making great progress. Let me catch you up to speed to where we are at this moment. Javier did a great job on the Schluter system over top of that cement backer board that we talked about before. I do want to point out though that we put that cement backer board first and then we went to the level 5 on the drywall. So what you're noticing is before we started laying tile, we had to get this wall nice and flat so we'd have that good transition between the tile and the drywall. So that's what you're seeing here is they're doing a little bit of float. Now the tile we're using here is from Clay Imports. This is kind of a cool company. They have an office here in Austin, but they actually have their own factory in Mexico. And so this is a handmade clay tile. I love seeing that clay. Beautiful tile, lots of great selections. By the way, they sell this nationwide, so they'll ship anywhere for you. This happens to be a 2-inch by 8-inch pattern. The actual name on this is called Rucksack Green, and this is the 2x8 horizontal stacked. Joint size on this is giving an 1/8 inch. Now I do want to point something out here, which is a bit of a call out on myself, but I do want you to take notice of this. Check this out. As we stack this and we come up the wall, we hit this window, and notice this right here. We've got this cut piece right here that's about 2 inches and another cut piece that's 2 inches. The guys did a real nice job of lining that window up within the tile. However, I do want to point out that one thing we could have done slightly differently or a little bit better had this been a house that was at kind of the next level up in terms of design is we could have actually custom ordered this window to fit perfectly within this tile. Is it a mistake? Not really, but it is something for you to think about. If this bothers you, seeing that cut piece on 2 sides and you would have had that window rather line up with that tile, it means that during the design phase, you actually need to know exactly which tile you're using so that long before you even start framing the house, you would have had that specific tile in mind to order that specific window size from Pella ahead of time. Doesn't necessarily bother me, but I did want to point that out. That's something to remember. And it's something that as a builder, I'm always constantly trying to get those selections as early in as possible on the job. And I don't want those selections to vary because what if that window was, some other weirder dimension or was almost edge to edge? There's a lot that can go wrong. So the earlier we can get our interior designer involved, get to Clay Imports, pull those selections, decide what that's going to look like, the better off in the field we are. It also helps that Barrett, amazing contractor, they're doing a great job of thinking about these things ahead of time. They also did an amazing job of giving us a shop drawing ahead of time that we could review. But again, the earlier, the better on all this. Let's let Barrett keep going. We're gonna take this tile all the way to the ceiling. He's also got a lighted niche back here that we're gonna be working on. So that's gonna be kind of fun to see that get lit up back in the process. And we got a couple more bathrooms to go. So let's get back to some tile work here. Okay, y'all, Barrett flooring, Clay Imports tile. Doesn't this look fabulous? I love it. Let's switch gears and talk floors. We've got a long time in this video talking about walls, but floors equally important for tile and a lot of considerations here. So first off, we're on the second floor. We're on subfloor here. So we've got a couple things going on. I've got this potential for some movement in the subfloor, like bounce, right? That could crack my grout in some terrible situation, maybe even crack my tile that I need to worry about. Downstairs on this house, I don't have any concrete that I'm laying it over, subfloor, or pardon me, foundation rather. But if I did have tile over concrete, the other thing I'm really worried about is cracks coming through, transferring through. We talked about this in the other part of the video from the garage where we had those cracks. So we've got to do two things. We've got to do a tile underlayment, a backer, and we also want to think about crack isolation. So for instance, on this bathroom, the other thing I want to mention is I need to think about what are my adjoining areas and what's my material thicknesses. I've got a 3/4 hardwood going down, and these two, I've got two doorways here, one run between me and the camera and one over the right, that are going to have hardwoods on the other side. Where the camera is right now is actually a kind of a kid's closet area walking into this bathroom, and then this direction takes me into a kind of upstairs living room space. Hardwoods over there, tile here. I don't want to see a big disparity between them, so I've gone with this product. This is by Schluter, and it's called Ditra. Now, let me rewind, and I'm going to talk about Ditra in a second. The other option that I could have done here is a tile backer just like behind the walls. It's made by USG, and it's called Durock. It's a cement-based tile backer. It's been trusted by builders for, gosh, literally generations or maybe decades. It's been around forever. It's a very stiff product. It would get applied over top of the subfloor with a thin set, and then it would actually get physically screwed into place. There's a joint treatment on that. I don't want to get into all the details, but the point is, I really like that. I've used it a lot. The reason I didn't do that here, or one of the reasons I didn't do that here, is because it would have added some thickness. And if I would have had, let's say, carpet in the room next door, no big deal. The padding in the carpet would have made that up. But because I've got subfloor, it makes a lot of sense to use a really thin product like this, which is made by Schluter. This Ditra material, believe it or not, even though it's thin, and gosh, I don't even know what the total thickness is. What is that? Maybe 1/8 or 3/16? This will prevent the cracking and the possible movement from translating into my tile. Now, I do have obviously a fabulous subfloor. This is a 3/4 inch Advantech from our friends over at Huber Engineered Woods. But this product is particularly cool because it works over subfloor. It also does really well over concrete. If I had a crack in the concrete below, this is going to isolate it because it gets applied with thin set, and then we have thin set up here. And this material kind of looks like an egg crate material that doesn't allow cracks to transfer through. And if we see it right here, you can see it's very thin. It's applied over top of that subfloor, and now when my tile comes out, my tile is, gosh, within 1/8 or so from this hardwood. Now we actually are going to be using a marble threshold on here because I want a little bit of a gap or a little bit of a stop between this tile and this hardwood for this reason. See the banding that's on this? This is a Kerdi band. It's actually comes in a roll, and after the Ditra went down, we banded this sheetrock. This is USG sheetrock right here, up onto that with this Kerdi band. And now what that's giving me is a really waterproof floor. If someone were to jump out of this tub and make a big splash right here, this floor that got wet wouldn't allow water now in between this crack right here. It would actually physically stop it. And in some places of the house, not in this particular spot, but in some places of the house, we provided a floor drain. And Schluter makes a specific floor drain that integrates right with this Ditra. It works fabulous. I did it at my house and all of my upstairs bathrooms. This is the one bathroom we didn't do it in, but it's definitely doable. And we did it in downstairs bathrooms as well. So you've got two options. We could have done USG Durock brand, or we could have done the Schluter Ditra system. I'm a fan of both. They both work well. I've tended to use the Schluter a lot though because of this waterproofing option that you see here that I really like. All right guys, Barrett Flooring's on the tail end of finishing up. This tile is looking fantastic. But remember what I said at the beginning of the video, this shower back here is like the Amazon rainforest times 10 with the amount of water. So we need to make sure our systems are waterproof and durable and of course beautiful and long lasting. And that's absolutely get with the Schluter system. Big thanks to Schluter for sponsoring. I use them at my personal build. And as I said at the beginning of the video too, it was that drain body that drove me to them, but they've got such innovative products. They really are a leader in the industry and I really trust them. Also want to say a big thanks to USG. We use their Durock, but all the rest of this beautiful sheetrock you see here is USG brand sheetrock. Gorgeous stuff, looks phenomenal. And Clay Imports, if you don't know these guys, you saw just a little taste of their tile. They make some beautiful stuff, made in Mexico, an Austin, Texas-based company. They're shipping all over the US. You should check them out. And they make some gorgeous stuff. So also, lastly, big thanks to Builders FirstSource for sponsoring the Reisinger build. If you haven't, catch up on our previous episodes, get up to speed if this happens to be your first episode, and stay tuned. We've got a few more things to go. We're jumping next into the trim carpentry phase. I said it earlier, but we put the floors down first so the finish carpenters could drop the trim and the doors into place without having to use additional moldings and shoe moldings. So that's going to be a really exciting phase. It's going to totally transform this house, and we're on the race to the finish at this point. With that being said, stay tuned for our next episode, and I'll see you next time on the Reisinger Build.